Hey, Jamie, how's it going?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Aloha.
Well done, Jamie.
Hi.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hey,
So I had another call at 3, so.
Okay, perfect. Admit. It's always in the beginning of these Zoom calls, you open it up and nobody's there, and then they start populating.
Right. So Vanessa, Jamie, you let me know whatever I need to know, right?
Perfect. Yeah. We'll send you the video even.
Yeah.
Jamie, I assume in the self-description for this signing, you just want something really short, right? A couple
Really
sentences?
short, super short.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I just noticed a posting I did on Facebook this morning.
Yeah.
And because of this meeting, I was looking at the date again. I posted June 5th, 2020.
You know, everybody is confused because there's no differentiation between, oh, hold on. Between days, there's no morning and night, there's no weekend.
It's a very strange life.
Yep. Hold on, here's Hans. Hold on.
How you doing, Jamie?
Hi. You know, it's hard for me to see because there's now a lot of us, but hi. Whoever said hi. Hi to you.
Andrew Hessel.
Oh, hi, Andrew. You know, I can't see your video.
I think that's okay, Jamie.
It's okay for me. What about these other people? All right, perfect. So why don't we get rolling?
Hello, Jamie. It's Alan Striker.
Hi. Actually, hold on. Let me just one thing. I want to add Vanessa as a co-host. So Vanessa, one second.
Jamie?
Yeah?
Shaukat Aziz here from London.
Hi, Shaukat. How are you? Thrilled to have you.
Same here.
Now we're getting serious.
Is this the right time? Yeah.
This is the perfect time, and we're thrilled to have you. And I see your daughter is also with us, so it's a family affair.
She's the one who set this up. I have no clue what to press.
You know, this is I think
That's
everybody.
the problem when you've been a prime minister. You do.
Yeah. I think we're all in this boat together where we didn't know anything about Zoom or any of it. And hold on. All right. Okay, so why don't we get rolling?
Okay.
And then I apologize if I get distracted a little bit along the way because I'm also the administrator, and I just want to make sure that everybody who wants to join is able to join. Matter of fact, Klaus, if you don't mind, I'm going to make you a co-host, and if you would just keep an eye on the entrance and just let anybody in who comes, that would be great. We are open to all comers.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. So again, we're at the Pong phase of video conferencing. And so we'll look back in a few months at this thing and we'll say, oh, remember when you used to have to say, everybody, please mute yourself if you're not speaking. But these are the days when we have to say it. So everybody mute yourself if you're not speaking. Marilyn and Kurt Metzel in Kansas City, this means you. And if you're speaking to each other and not looking at the screen, we can still hear you, Mom and Dad. So with that, first, let me just welcome all of you. I'm just really, we were just on a call in the hour before this. And basically pretty much everybody on the call were people with a couple of small exceptions who I didn't know a month ago. And now it's like my BFFs. And it's just incredible how fast the world is moving, how just community formation is happening differently. And something horrible is happening in this world and something magical is also happening in this world. So welcome to all of you. There are many people on this call who've been on every one of our global calls. There are many of you who are part of working groups and people who've been on calls or Zooms every single day pretty much for the last month. And then there are some people for whom this is the first time that you've been on a call. So let me try to bridge this. There's maybe, if some of you know, there was a famous comedian and performer named Danny Kaye. And when he used to do his stand-up performances, when anybody would come in late, he'd say, oh, I'm so sorry, Rachel Cooper is a little bit late joining us. But let me tell you, Rachel, what you missed. And he'd start over from the beginning and he'd do it twice as fast. And then the next time somebody else was like, oh, I'm sorry, Katya Speck, you're late. And then and by the end, he would encapsulate the entire show in like 15 seconds. So here's the very quick version of how we got here, which was 6 weeks ago. I gave a talk at Singularity University. I was supposed to talk about genetics, but that morning changed the topic because I was just so angry that the core problem, as I saw it, wasn't that we weren't able to address this one pathogen or pandemic. It's that we weren't organized to address any of the global existential challenges that we as a species face. And the reason is we just have a collective action problem where we've hired our governments to fight for our national interests. And they're doing exactly what we hired them to do, but we have this collective interest and no one's fighting for it. And we created the UN to do that job, but the states funded it, funded and controlled those entities. And so we're never willing to give them the power to do what needed to be done. That's why when we had this pathogenic outbreak, we didn't have a World Health Organization that had the resources or mandate or power to just fix the problem. Now that's where we're in. But the virus the virus was just the catalyst. What the world that it was already breaking. And we are already seeing the manifestations of that. Right now, we're seeing mass migrations. We're seeing, the World Bank has estimated that 500 million people are going to be pushed back into extreme poverty by this pandemic. 265 million additional people will face acute food insecurity. And this is really, really serious stuff. And there's a lot of reasons to mourn. And I think many of us are mourning. And hold on, I'm gonna grab something that, but there's also just an incredible moment for hope right now. And it's this weird juxtaposition that I talk about every call. And I just wanna read something that just came in last night. And this woman from Australia, she said, my name is Michelle. I live in Melbourne, Australia. I'm a senior policy advisor in our government's Department of Health and Human Services. I'm also a mother of 3, a community builder, a people connector, and someone who cares about the planet, social justice, and making the world a better place, particularly for our communities most vulnerable. Of late, my feelings of anxiety and fear over this pandemic have given way to feelings of hope and inspiration. Yes, the global health and economic impacts are devastating, but there is so much to think about in terms of how we want our society to emerge after this and how we can harness the changes to make a difference for our planet and its people. I heard you speak on the radio in Australia and have been reading what I can about the interdependence movement since. I want to be part of the change. I recognize the changes I want to sustain in my house, in my local community, but what I want to understand is how I can make these changes more significant, scale them up, and contribute to something more widespread, more global. I've registered on your mailing list and look forward to reading what comes my way and contributing what I can. Thanks for reading, Michelle. That's what we're doing. I mean, this world, people are so afraid, but we have this moment and this moment of hope. And that is why we just have this incredible opportunity for everybody to come together. And I've been saying to a lot of people that I feel that this virus, it's kind of the equivalent of the bullet that killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo in 1914. That bullet didn't cause World War I. World War I was caused by everything that happened before and some things that happened after that assassination. And so our world, where 3 billion people, even before this, are living in poverty. We have horrible inequality in the United States. Only 6% of the COVID deaths are people who didn't already have 2 comorbidities. We are already destroying our ecosystems and environment, already allowing this crazy proliferation of weapons of unbelievable mass murder. And I think we're all recognizing that it's not that our world was broken, our world was breaking, and we have this opportunity not to rebuild what's gone, but to come together to reimagine what's possible. In 1648 was the beginning, or there was the idea of the modern nation state. 1945, we recognized that system of balance of power was broken and there needed to be something else. And that was this post-war order with international organizations, particularly the UN. And in 2020, I think this is going to be seen historically as the year the post-war order ended. And what we are about, I think, at our core, is what is going to replace it. And is it going to be a world based on our understanding of the mutual responsibilities that come with interdependence? Or is it going to be a world where walls go up, where people fight for their own little thing at the expense of each other? As Paula, my new best friend, who I didn't even know a month ago, keeps saying, this is a moment of birth. And I'd say, she may mention this later, we're not yet born, we're like 8 months and 3 weeks pregnant, and we are rushing in this ambulance on our way to the hospital. And those of us who are rushing in the hospital, it's everybody in this Zoom meeting. It's the hundreds of people who are participating in our movement, and it's the millions of people who don't yet know we exist, but who are looking for opportunities of hope. And because we're a community around a common set of values and principles, but we're also co-creators. And I really want everybody to, in this community, to feel super empowered. I mean, we're putting together, and you'll hear about this today, a lot of materials so that we can all be singing from the same hymnal. But as I said in our call a moment ago, we need altos and baritones and sopranos and tenors. And we even need people like banging spoons and making chirping noises. And as long as you're kind of roughly in tune with the beat, that's great. And so we're moving fast. I mean, we've had so many of these, many of you are on our working groups, we've had lots of meetings, and it's been the same Star Trek moment. And I've used this metaphor before where it's like, you know, we're going to warp speed, and then Mr. Scott, you know, we don't have the power. It's like, no, we've got to go. And so we're moving really quickly. And there are a lot of people, Jamie Douglas and others who are kind of bearing the brunt of this massive speed, and Jorge and others, but we're getting there. And not everybody sees all the pieces, but it's unbelievable how well the pieces are coming together. But moving at this speed, going from a blog post to launching a global movement, trying to get millions of people to join in 44 days is fast. Anyway, and that's what we're doing. So Wednesday is our big launch day. On that day, we're going to release the website. We're going to issue the declaration translated, and thank you to our amazing translators, into simplified and traditional Chinese, Dutch, German, Hindi, Italian, and Spanish. We're reaching out. We'll take as many languages as come our way, but those are the ones people have volunteered to translate. We're calling on people all around the world to sign our pledge, and thank you, Jim and Ken, for suggesting that bifurcation of the declaration and the smaller, more user-friendly pledge. We're announcing the launch of our emergency action agendas to strengthen the global public health infrastructure and support the most vulnerable populations, particularly in the Southern Hemisphere. We're issuing a call to artists, and thank you, Jackie and Rachel and Suzy and Tracy and the others who've been working their hearts out on this, issuing a call to artists around the world to share all forms of creative expression, celebrating our shared humanity, and launching a co-creation space on Instagram. We're collectively demanding that world leaders in the upcoming G7 and G20 meetings place the interdependence agenda at the heart of their meetings. And we are the genius idea that Ken came up with. We are declaring May 6th Global Interdependence Day. I mean, it's kind of audacious, but we're doing it anyway. So we're going to go through, there's a lot that you're going to hear, and we need pay close attention, because this isn't some kind of passive thing. There's like very specific action items that we need from you. So the first is 4 the declaration. Anybody who signs on to the declaration before basically tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time, because we're launching Wednesday at 0.00 GMT, which is 6 p.m. Tuesday night in New York. Please, if you haven't already responded to the various things that you've emailed, just do it in the chat here. Just put your name, your country, very, very short self-description, and your email, and just do it in your chat. So anybody who puts that in chat, consider yourself signed. The pledge will be on the homepage of the website, and it'll be in all of our languages. And then we're going to be, and you'll hear from Miguel and Luchen and Nili about this. We're going to be having everybody reach out, because we want to get as many people as possible. Jim Clark is always saying manage expectations. So I will not say billions, because that's ridiculous. I probably will regret that I'm saying millions, but there's a lot of people out there, and let's get them. So Miguel and Luchen and Nili will lead us on that. And then I said this last time, but I just want to give people a sense of where I think. I mean, we're an evolving community, and I think we're all learning from each other. So where we think we may be going may end up different from where we end up going. But at least as I see it, we're starting by establishing a common vocabulary, a common set of values. And then we're harnessing a much bigger global community around those values. And that's kind of the currency. We're building up our currency of impact. Then we're going to use this currency, spend it, if you will, on some very specific and targeted campaigns like the ones that I mentioned. But as we do, we will be seeking to build a greater consciousness that pulls all these pieces together and changes the way we frame. And thank you, Vishaka, to all of your great help thinking, and your team about framing, the way we frame the conversation about power, about who has access to what, about whose rights are respected and reflected and fought for in our world, and use that then to drive real change. And whether that's through these ideas being integrated into our own movement, and we just spoke with Grace and Miguel and others about having chapters, like Amnesty International has chapters in universities around the world, about national chapters, and also just wanting political parties, like happens with the Green parties, to say what this interdependence message is part of our platform, because we are a progressive party. So for all of this to happen, I used the word crazy in an early version of our press release, but Paula said crazy doesn't sound good. Hello, Paula, I had to sneak back when she was mentioned. Crazy is not, so it's impossible. And it's a crazy impossible. I'll merge the two idea, but this is the kind of moment in history when crazy impossible ideas can become real. And that's what we're here for. I just want everybody to feel maximally empowered, but to be empowered, then you need to make sure that you have the tools. And so to talk about that, we're going to have some updates from various people who've really just been working their hearts out on these different pieces. So because the website will be the kind of place where the rubber hits the road in terms of our public engagement, at least in the beginning, wanted to ask Klaus and then Jamie Douglas just to say a few words. So over to you, Klaus. Oh, Klaus, are you there? Uh-oh, I hope I didn't do something to Klaus, because now he's reappeared. Klaus?
Sorry. That was my fault.
Okay.
I was doing playback.
Okay.
So now, basically, it's great to be here. I'm really thankful for the opportunity, Jamie. I think it's a great thing that you're putting here together. But please, before I go on, let me say thanks to Jamie Douglas, who has been leading the launch of this website and has a big challenge in front of him while the clock does tick-tock, tick-tock. Basically, he has been putting a lot of work into this, going against all the odds, because everyone, including me, we wanted to start a little bit later, maybe a little bit slower, but in the end, strategically thinking, and as you are also brought it forward to me, we really needed to hit next week's milestone. And sometimes time is more important than quality. So I do think that Jamie's putting together a good piece of work. Jorge Bernal is also supporting him in the background, putting together a couple of things here and there, checking for glitches and things like that. But I think that we're going to be in good shape on Wednesday, given the fact of how we are starting, okay? And I want to also say thank you to Jorge, just before I give a quick overview about everything. So that's it. Basically, what we did was to separate the topics of the platform in 2 blocks, okay? What we're going to do before May 6th and what we have to do after May 6th. And what we're going to have to do after May 6th, we'll address it later in a call that we should address with the team, okay? Basically, just a quick overview of how the data communication strategy is going to be evolving around these 2 pieces, website and social media networks. Basically, what's going to happen is that what we need to do is we need to drive the audience from the different social networks back in to the website. And the way to do that is with the help of Cody. Sorry, I'm losing this. Okay, with the help of Cody, who's going to help us to build this big multi-channel strategy where we're going to build in all this audience driving from the different networks into the website. Now, that doesn't mean that on the website we shouldn't have content. We will also have some interactive content in the website, but we need to have content on both sides. However, what is going to bring really the drive into the website will be all the social networks and obviously all the different media channels that you will probably trigger, Jamie, with your reputation, your contacts, and that stuff. Okay, so that's basically it in a nutshell. I would like to pass over the work very quickly to Jamie, and please, Jamie, go and take care of this. Thanks.
Me, I'm on. Hey, everybody. We've been moving at warp speed. Is warp 9, I think it is, right, Jamie? It's great to see everybody. In a minute, I'm going to share the screen so that you can see the website. But if you happen to be doing what I'm doing, working on a few different screens at once, the website is actually live, although it's hiding behind a coming soon page. But if you go to OneShared, see how good I am, .world/home. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Home.
I'll put it in the chat for you, Jamie.
Yeah,
I'll put it in the chat.
This is like my.
It's like the Martian movie.
Yeah. Okay. There, I just made it in the chat list there. If you go there, you can look at this at the same time. If you just went to OneShared.world, you would just see the coming soon page. So if you want to do that, please go ahead. I'm going to share the screen now, if that's all right, Jamie's.
Yep.
So people can see what we're looking at here. Okay, so this is the coming soon page, and I'm going to go up here and type in home, and you'll see what the page will look like when we launch. This is the desktop view, obviously. What we have is a very warm, friendly, hopeful, inviting design here and tone, which is very fitting with how Jamie brought this out and how everybody's been participating and contributing. On this page, you'll scroll down. You can click on this button here, and you'll see quick link to the pledge and a form where people will fill it in. And below that, links where you can share it on various social media or WhatsApp or via email. The site is pretty simple and minimal, which makes it easy to use, but also makes it very flexible. Like Klaus was saying, we're gonna be able to build in interactivity, to build in more content, and to develop that relationship with our social media platforms. So that's why we left this fairly simple and open. I'll continue through the site a little bit for those who can't look at it on their screen, but we have about 90% of the content filled in. The rest is going to come in tonight. On the About page, we have a little bit about the story of how Jamie started this insanity. And basically, it's a really cool story. My wife read it for the first time last night. She said, "Oh, so that's what you've been doing." Then we click on the who we are, and right now what we've got is maybe a little intro list of our leadership team. Those original signatories are the people who signed on by 5 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time, Jamie. So we'll have that list fired in there, which will be very cool, very impressive. The community page, click on that. This has organizations that we admire and recommend that people check out, that hopefully we can develop partnerships with some or all of them. I hope that's correct, Jamie. And we can add to this list. Some very interesting organizations we're checking out if you don't know about them. On the Explore page, we're still working on this part. Right now, what's going to happen when you mouse over that, you'll see discuss the declaration. That's going to take us to the chisel tool, which will allow people to collaborate and interact around the content that you guys are working on around the declaration and so forth. That'll be connected by the time we launch. And then join our artist co-creators right now goes to our brand new Instagram page. You click on the media page. This is going to be a place where we list various relevant and appropriate media articles, pieces on the web and press and on TV, YouTube, other places. Right now we just got a few, but we're expecting this to explode starting Wednesday. We're also going to have a space here for people to download useful media for like social media badges and logos and other things like that, that you can share with your partners, that you can use when you're utilizing the different content we have. Just another way for us to get the word out. That'll be up there by tomorrow as well. We've got a very simple contact page. And on our ACT page, we're going to be developing this out with ways for people to join the various micro campaigns and other actions that are going to roll out as this baby evolves and grows and takes the world by storm. Then we have a donate page. You can go there right now and give money, which would be very cool. But you don't have to. You can get other people to give money. And then we have our social media links, which right now the only one that's clicking in is the Instagram, but by tomorrow we'll have the other one set up as well. Couple things about the site. If you're clicking around, you may see some things like the privacy policy. We're still developing that. We will have that up in time. That has to do with GDPR compliance and also just satisfying the privacy requirements that are required basically or expected across the internet right now. Those of you who know about these things may notice that the site doesn't have a secure badge on the URL address bar. That's because we're going to be what's the best word? We're going to be speeding up the site even more than it is now by connecting to a global CDN network. That'll be happening after this meeting. Right now, the site is on a cloud-based network, which makes it very fast and very nimble. This will allow people in all around the world to download content as fast as anybody else in any other part of the world. And along with that will come our certification. It's just a kind of a technical thing that we have to take the right steps. We're also working on a few glitches that are with mobile presentation, but this site is fully responsive, meaning it kind of operates like an app in many ways, like a mobile app. Pretty much all of that is taken care of, but that'll be satisfied by tomorrow as well. And Jamie, that's about all I have to say. Yeah. It's a very exciting project to be a part of, and thank you for letting me present this to you.
Perfect. So first I want to say, Jamie, thank you so much. I mean, this is incredible what you've done so quickly and to do it so beautifully. Huge kudos to you. And then thank you to everybody who contributed to the great content that's populated the site. Special thank you to Omar and Marie Papazian, Mary's daughter, and they put together the content about the other organizations. And that was a lot of work. I'm not following all of the chats, but for some unknown reason, some chats just show up on my screen, and 2 showed up that were relevant. Vishaka found a mistake for someplace where it says March 6th and we mean May 6th. So I'm sure that's my fault in something that I sent to Jamie. So we'll fix that. And then Noreen had a great, again, I'm only just for some reason 2 comments showed up. They were both really useful. Noreen had a question about can other people sign on as original signatories before tomorrow at 5? And the answer is absolutely yes. But we shouldn't be sending around this link for the reasons that Jamie said. So please, anybody's welcome to become an original signatory, but I would say do it through the content that was sent in Vanessa's earlier email, where there's a link to the document and then a link to the Google Doc where you can add your name. That's probably the best way, but we don't want people, we certainly want people between now and 6 p.m. while this site is open to poke around the site. And as a matter of fact, having you do that and press all the links is part of our stress test. So we want you to do that, but we don't yet have a site, and Miguel's gonna talk about this in a moment. We don't yet have a site that we want you to be blasting out into the world, because we don't have all of the security systems up. Right now it's internal, it'll go live tomorrow at 6. And with that, we're gonna blast out this community and this website and everything else into the world. And so we have our just incredible outreach working group that's been working really, really hard. And so I'd like to ask the 3 co-leaders of that group, Miguel, Nili, and Luchen, to talk about your work and what you guys and we need from everyone else.
Sure, Jamie, thank you very much. Let me start. Thank you all, first of all of those that participated in the working groups. Your help is highly appreciated, and thank you all as well for joining the initiative. So as Jamie mentioned, together with Nili, Luchen, and Omar, we have many others, we have developed a plan whose idea is to engage and outreach to as many people as we can, with the idea of eventually reaching millions, as Jamie said initially. So for this plan, you are all going to be protagonists. You are all going to play a key role for this. As you know, today we have about 100 people, from the 300 strong person initiative. So we are already around 300 people. So what you will get tonight from Omar, and again on Wednesday morning, is an email with basically 2 attachments, right? One message focused on individuals that you can forward, whether by email or in social networks, to your friends, family, colleagues, so on. And another message more focused with a different language on organizations, right? We already have a list of 50 to 60 organizations, global organizations. Remember, this group aims to be as diverse as possible and to reach out to other parts of the world, other social groups. We want to be extremely inclusive because this is a global effort. Hence, this is going to be very, very relevant. I think you're going to love the message. There was a lot of time put into drafting it. It's very simple language, very, very motivating, very optimistic, very driven to action. You'll see it tonight, and you're really going to love it. So what we ask from you is basically to, first of all, obviously, sign the pledge and to forward the message, asking those recipients to sign the pledge and to forward it in turn to their own networks and to their friends and colleagues. By doing this network marketing, we really want to kick off this big time. I don't know if Luchen or Nili would like to also add a few comments.
Thank you, McGill. Again, this is a wonderful teamwork. Never forget about the hours we work together as a team on Saturday. One thing I just noticed from the website that Jim just released or shared with us is the term called Declaration of Global Interdependence. Our outgoing message still says the Declaration of Interdependence. Should we be consistent either way? Please take note.
Yeah, that's just a that's just a mistake, and so that's why we want you guys to poke around and tell us. So that's, yeah, so we'll fix that. And
okay,
Shaka found something, and we'd love for you to poke around, see what you see. If there's anything that we need to fix, let us know. But that's just a mistake.
Wonderful. The other thing I do want to, again, McGill is a very well said, and some of you made some comments, particularly from Michael, Michael Nethan. Thank you so much for the nice comment in the first sentence. I think that's a very powerful statement from you. I think the team will go back and review this edit and see if we can mesh that in. So we'll certainly take a look at that. And the other thing I do want to bring back, again, maybe this has nothing to do with the message. If anything, this is the most memorable today for today's meeting is what Jamie started with. Is whether we are the baby in the ER and we're rushing to the ER or not. That's what a great analogy. I never forget about that. But I would also think that this is really a, whether this is the ER truck or something, the message is really delivering the message of hope. I would think that we all together collectively are conceiving this baby of hope. So this message can be the message of a powerful conceiving message, baby. I mean, we see whatever stage, we certainly may pass this among these people, among our group. But I think for the general public who will see this message, it is the moment, powerful moment of conception. So that's what I like to make. Yeah.
Just a couple quick comments from me, given the great remarks that have already been given by my colleagues on this working group. One is just a point of order. I noticed that the comments that I had made over the weekend in our shared Google Doc, I just went in there, are no longer reflected. So I'm gonna have to go back in and re-enter them. Just a request that if anyone else thinks that they've made comments, if you wouldn't mind just double checking that they're showing up there so that we are able to digest them. And then the second point is, really an advertisement, just wanting to underscore how important the resharing and recirculation of these invitations will be when you receive them. And on a time-sensitive basis, we're really trying to race to get a strong number of signatories and partner organizations at the time of the launch. And remember from our last discussion that we're really interested in thinking creatively about who might this message be appealing to that wouldn't necessarily be the most obvious candidates to send to mind. How can we find ideological diversity, cultural diversity in those signatories? So as you're thinking about how to share this, please be creative in thinking outside the box about where you'll send it. And now is a good time to start thinking about that outreach list. Thank you.
That's great, Neely. And just two quick points that I'd like to add. First is on the timing of sending this out, because we're sequencing it for the website. I think we didn't know when the website would be shareable. Now that we've set tomorrow at 6 p.m. New York Eastern time as when our thing goes live, I think it'll make most sense to send your committee's emails, the two emails to everybody twice. First tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and because then it'll have all the live links, and you can just blast it out into the world, and then to send it again on Wednesday morning. I mean, I'm on US Eastern time, but send it again 12 or 14 hours later, so maybe somebody missed it. And for apologies, you'll get it twice. And the way that they've constructed it is just really easy. All you have to do is forward the message and just personalize it for you. and it's good to go. The header is sent. You don't need to do any cut and paste. Just forward the message, put everybody in your network, and then we're asking them, we want it, if they receive it and they like it, and then they receive it. And so I think that's a really important point. And then just with Nili's point, I think, yes, when we send it out when we're live, it's great to have as much diversity as possible, and that's a huge goal. But we also have 24 hours until we put the list of original, coming back to Noreen's point, of original signers to bed. And so if there are people in your world who you think these people would be really great original signers, we're still open for business. And so, you know, if anybody who signs our declaration, again, don't send them the website because the link won't work. But you can certainly forward them the materials that you already have, and certainly forward them to the link to the Google Doc, and we would love it. So I think everybody recognizes that we have really amazing diversity of some kinds. We have people from 34 countries and all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of ages, but we can always do better. And we, as I say on every one of these things, let's all take responsibility. There's some voice that's missing, grab them, and we're stronger for it. So with that, so that was great. But media coming up on Wednesday. Media is a big part of what we're doing. We now have we had a little bit of a problem we had to deal with, and it's like fixed. They were like in such great shape now. So we have 3 amazing media professionals who are guiding this launch. There's Zachary Hooper, Arabella Meyer, and Ashley Bernardi. And so Zach and Arabella, over to you.
Jamie, before we continue,
Yes.
could I just ask you, this is Hans Corell,
Yes.
to have an authoritative version of the declaration disseminated to us, because there have been several versions here, and I'm very concerned that we have an authoritative text
Wonderful.
of the declaration.
I will do that just soon after getting off the call, and thank you so much. And thank you more generally, Hans, for you keeping us honest, even though I'm concerned because in our first call, you had a 3-piece suit in quarantine, and now you're not even wearing a tie. So I hope you're keeping standards up.
It's just that you were pulling my leg about that.
Yes, but we're thrilled to have you. Not all humor translates into Swedish, but we're so thrilled to have you with us, and just your precision is really fantastic. So thank you so much. All right, Zachary and Arabella, over to you.
Sure, Arabella, do you want to kick off with what you've been working on?
I had to unmute. Sorry about that. Sure. Zachary has the flashier bit, which is about the media. What I've actually been working on are a set of talking points and answers to questions. So those of you who do get interviewed, or so that we have a central place to draw from. For those of you on the engagement team, I actually did have a version of the email. So there is some of that language that is put in there. We finally did agree on it midday today. And so we will have that. I think we're still talking about how we're disseminating it, but to make sure that at least early on, while we want to be dispersed, we also want people to know who we are. So making sure we talk about ourselves in a similar enough manner so that we start to sort of build out an understood explanation of who we are. And with that, for media, over to Zach.
Great. So we are taking two-pronged approach here, reflecting the interesting nature of this organization. First of all, we're taking a centralized approach in terms of creating a press release and pitching some of our key spokespeople. We've got Jamie and Paul, then we've also got about another dozen folks who we signed on as official spokespeople. We're going to be disseminating a press release, which we're finalizing right now for Wednesday. Ashley and I and her team are pitching away at various media outlets. We've also got an op-ed that we're trying to place that was authored by Jamie to coincide with this, hopefully to land on Wednesday. However, recognizing that we've got this gigantic, global, fantastic, engaged group of people, we want to leverage all of the resources that you can bring to bear to this. As I mentioned, we've got about a dozen folks who have signed on to be spokespeople. If anybody else in this group is interested in potentially speaking on behalf of the organization, please let me know, shoot me an email. We're putting together a packet of information, including a press release, which you can customize a bit for your particular markets, talking points, some media interview tips. You know, we don't want everybody in the group to be pitching the New York Times, but you reflect a wide geographical and subject matter based group of constituencies, and we'd love to take advantage of that as much as possible. You also have a great number of institutional affiliations that would be terrific to leverage. So again, if anyone is interested in participating in that, and thank you, I saw someone's comment. I will put my email again in the chat form, and please feel free to reach out directly to me, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, and I just want to stress that we're a decentralized network. That's our strength. There are lots of people, and you have your networks, and so it's the balance we need to have. And Arabella has really struggled mightily to keep us honest. We need to have a core message, because if we go out into the world with radically different messages, people are going to get confused about who we are. And if somebody says something that's at odds with where the rest of us think we're going to spend a lot of our energy trying to fix that problem rather than getting our core message out there. Having said that, we recognize this is an incredibly powerful group. And you all have your networks and your relationships. And so we certainly want people to feel empowered. And so in our call just earlier, we kind of talked about what's the right way to do it. What we decided was that one idea was kind of the total radical decentralization, which is just send the Mad Libs press release and the talking points out to everybody and say, take it and run. And then the other end of the spectrum, we didn't want to do quite that. The other end of the spectrum, somebody recommended, why don't we just have 2 or 3 spokespeople? And we felt that didn't represent the breadth of what we're doing. What we want to do is that we really invite anybody and everybody. If you would like to be a spokesperson, and if you would like to reach out to your network, then, oh, I heard my mother is finally joining. If you would like to reach out to your network, we would love for you to do that. But let's just use Zachary as the central coordinator, because once you volunteer for that, we'll then loop you in to the probably weekly meetings of all of the people who have volunteered, who are wanting to do that, just so we can learn lessons. I'm sure there are going to be some messages that are working better. We'll learn a lot along the way. Second point is that Zachary and Ashley and Arabella, we and myself actually, we know the American media better than the non-American media. And so if you are in, frankly, any other country on earth,
we welcome your insights and your
we welcome your insights, but your network is not going to bump into ours. And so, like, if you're people in the Sinosphere, in the Spanish-speaking world, and whatever, we want you to feel that Katya in the German-speaking world. We can if we just divide up Hans with Sweden, we really want you to feel empowered. And we also have other language. We'll get to the artists. So not all of this is verbal. There are other ways that we're sharing. So that's really fantastic on this media. So Zachary and Arabella are our point people. But if you have specific questions about media, I would say point them at Zachary. And then we have social media. And as I was saying on our call before, like, I was just informed that Morse code is not a mechanism for delivering social media messages. So luckily, we have people who really know this stuff. And so we have Cody, who's incredible, and we have our amazing group of coordinators, our younger generation people who are really just doing amazing work. So Cody, do you want to talk about social media strategy?
Yeah, sure. So I cannot take the credit that most of the people who have been talking and have been working so hard can up to now. I think this started middle of last week when I said, sure, I'll go ahead and set up a Twitter account. And I think, like probably most things with Jamie, it snowballed. So now we're figuring it out, and we'll be ready for tomorrow. But thankfully there is, this great group of student collegiate volunteers who have stepped up to the plate to own the social media accounts, and kind of to the point of what Jamie was just saying, that we'll be using the principles and the messaging that the media team has created as a framework, and empowering these students to be the social media voice of this movement. And that we'll learn and evolve as we go. But of course, speed is the strategy right now. So those accounts will be up and connected to the site tonight. One note is there will be an additional Instagram account. So there'll be One Shared World. There'll also be One Shared World Art, and that'll be part of the arts movement, which will be an additional account. And then one thing I think that will be important in the beginning is these accounts won't have any followings. So I will work with Jamie and Vanessa to get those accounts out to this group so that you guys can follow them and share them. And then something I'd like to do across social media for tomorrow and or Wednesday is get an evenly sized square, just the logo, just simple by itself, out to everyone so that you can share it on your social media so that people start to see in their feeds this same logo that just happened to pop up all over their feed on the same day, and start to generate some of that interest and use the power of this group and your existing networks to bring this thing up to speed and kind of birth it in the social media world.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cody. You used the word up to this point. I haven't been that involved up to this point. I think you realize you're being pulled into the vortex and resistance is futile, and we're thrilled to have you. So with that, you talked about art. The arts and culture working group has just been incredible. I mean, the level of energy and creativity has been amazing. So Jackie and Rachel, over to you.
So thank you, Jamie, and it's really been inspiring. I think the very nature of what is interdependence has really been the call to arms for all of us, because it's the very nature of relationship. And at the same time, it's about the multiplicity of views, of ways that we can go about being creative, and that artists and networks of artists can share that vision. And that's really what we've been working to collect and to truly be global in that. Jackie.
Hi there, everyone. I want to first thank Group 8, the famous group of arts and culture people who are growing day by day and have been working really hard. For the launch, it's going to say that we've issued a call to artists from around the world to share all forms of creative expression, celebrating our shared humanity, and we're launching the Instagram site. And this Instagram site is specifically for people coming to look for arts. And so the hashtag is indeed One Shared World Art. And, you know, in the beginning, we were very clear that the arts and gender communication across cultures, we wanted it to be a really important part of what is going on here, because we believe that culture is at the core of everything we do. So this Instagram account is going to be a real call to people. In fact, it begins with a call to artists. Suzy Abara, who's a composer, a wonderful musician, and seems to be connected to every artist that I've heard of or not heard of. And so we've asked her to say a few words about where we're going with all this. So over to Suzy.
Hi, thank you, Jackie. Can you all hear me? Okay. Pretty excited about it. And Cody, I think we can get all of this to you. We're just about ready to launch the Instagram, so I'll get all of that, as well as YouTube's, and to see what would be the best way in sharing for the main Instagram, and also Jamie Douglas for the website. Pretty excited about it, hearing everybody talk. I think that in arts and culture, in the voice, it really grounds the meaning of a practitioner in interdependency, and also it's definitely a practice of inspiring hope. So, oh, and also going back to what that face is of the controversial word of globalization, and what does that face look like? Well, it's very diverse, and consists of people from all over. So I think arts and culture are one way of definitely expressing and sharing that.
So thank you so much for that, Suzy. And just a special thank you from me to Vishaka and Rachel, who in my old previous life in the Asia Society really taught me about the integration of arts and culture into all of life and what that means and how to position it. So position that. So special thank you to the two of you. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, we're in addition to the call to artists, we're going to be announcing two issue campaigns right out from the get-go, because we don't want people to say, yeah, declaration, it's great, it's abstract, but look out the window, there's a crisis. And we're saying we recognize there's a crisis. We recognize that if you believe that interdependence is the core theme of what it means to be a human in the world, the second you accept that, it triggers mutual responsibilities. And those mutual responsibilities require very aggressive responses. Like you can no longer sit back, because we were saying in an earlier meeting, my health and well-being reside in you and yours, whether you are somebody in Africa or Asia or next door, and vice versa. So we're going to announce the launch of these two campaigns. One is going to be on global public health, and basically what we're pulling together a team of top experts. I actually have a call just in an hour with Michelle Williams, the dean of the Harvard Public Health School, and we're talking to reaching out to Paul Farmer, and we have some super high level people who we're in touch with, and that's basically going to ask 4 questions. One is, if we were starting from scratch, what's the global health capacity that we need to keep us safe? 2, what's the difference in what we need and what we have? 3, what is an emergency step that we can take to just enhance what we have now in the context of this emergency? And number 4, what are the steps? How do we think about creating the capacity that we need to keep us safe? And Divya Chander, who's a brilliant, amazing woman and great friend of mine at Stanford, has been also helping to spearhead this. So Divya, would you like to say a few words?
Thanks, Jamie. So I think you summed it up pretty well. I have been trying to do 2 things. One is to pull in some of these luminary superstars in the global health community, who are, as you can imagine, a bit overstretched, but we've got some members of the Atlantic Council on board, including David Bray, who's worked in past pandemics. And I'm afraid to throw out more names that he might be bringing on board until they have absolutely confirmed. I'm working with the director of Gavin Newsom's COVID-19 task force in California, so I'm trying to bring him on board. We're trying to bring on board Ashish Jha, who is also the head of global health at Harvard. But more importantly, I've also reached out to my international contacts, because we want to have we want to make sure that we represent what global health looks like and their challenges in LATAM, in South Asia, in East Asia, in Africa. So I'm working on bringing together a sort of a diverse group of people. And as Jamie mentioned, one of the things I'm coming up against is when I invite people to do this, one thing they say is, well, this is why the WHO failed, and there are all these funding issues, there are all these geopolitical issues. And I think that the idea is to think out of the box and to imagine what that system would be if we could create the ideal system, and then work from there to see how implementation could happen. And perhaps with a global movement like this, we could give some support to that. The final thing I wanted to say is that while we're going to deal with pandemic preparedness and resilience to start, there are many other things that are involved in global health and planetary health. So food security, food insecurity, in fact, may kill more people than the COVID-19 disease. Water security, sanitation, climate and habitat stabilization, and biodiversity. And these systems are completely intertwined. So as we tackle this idea of global health infrastructure, we'll be looking at all of these different things.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Divya. And then for the second of these campaigns, and basically the strategy for these campaigns is we have an experts group. They come up with a short, kind of maybe 2-page maximum bullet pointed strategy of here's answering, in this case, those questions. We then, just like we did with the declaration and the pledge, we then translate that bigger thing into a shorter call to arms. We then, hopefully by then, we'll have these large numbers of people. We push that out into the world, asking people to join our pledge to promote global health or global public health. And when they do, they'll immediately get a toolkit that will, for a global decentralized pressure campaign, they'll get the letters, they'll get text of ways of reaching out, they'll have training videos and all of those kinds of things. So the goal is, again, we start with the big idea of the header of interdependence. Then if it means something, it has to be applied. We pick the areas we think are of the greatest significance. We get experts to help focus a strategy. We harness this large, hopefully billions, I'll say it again, of people to get agitated and excited, and we empower them to come together, both in decentralized and centralized way, to push for this kind of change. And Divya said it exactly right. It's because we're starting from this big issue of the world isn't organized the right way. It allows us to enter these conversations from a different point. I was on a call with this same person from the Atlantic Council this morning who's in Washington, and he started saying, oh, but budget lines and whatever. And I said, hold on a second. What we're saying is the world is misorganized. That's where we want to start the conversation. What's the, not how can we increase the WHO budget by 10%. It's how do we organize ourselves to save humanity? And then how do we turn that into something practical? So that's number one. The second one is going to be, is a group doing the exact same thing, focusing on addressing the emergency needs of the Southern Hemisphere, particularly some Southern Hemisphere countries and the most vulnerable populations there. That team is going to be co-led by my very good friend, Ambassador Rick Barton, who's on this call. I'm going to ask him for a second. Rick is wonderful guy, one of the former U.S. ambassadors to the UN, but just has been involved with these kinds of issues for his whole life. And we're in the process of, again, I don't want to fall into the Divya trap, but of identifying potential co-leads of that. But some of the names of people reaching out to include Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the former president of Liberia, and others. So that's the level that we're thinking of. So Rick, over to you.
Great. Thanks very much, Jamie, and great to see all of you. I'm really impressed by the energy and the creativity that's already going into this. Not a surprise for those of us like Cody who've been hit by Jamie's snowball. It felt like it was an avalanche. There's plenty to momentum, that's for sure. So we have a pretty simple task. It's the first stage is really to bring together some ideas that are not just in the health space, but really the kinds of structural changes that would make a difference for the global South. So we need your input in that space. And then secondly, we really need some names of talent, of people from the global South. So in the 10 minutes since Jamie recruited me, I've been building those lists, but we could use more talent. And so you will clearly have friends that you think will both be able to offer their names and their ideas. So this experts group will produce something of real value in the next, probably the next couple of weeks, maybe the next few days, depending on the avalanche. So I think that's really what we're trying to do right now. But think in terms of structural changes, not just health in the health space, but obviously the governance space, mobilizing people, and the other elements of this. And we're very much aware that this needs to be a much more diverse group of people from the global South, and we'd like the leadership to reflect that. In particular, women from the South would be great. So looking for your suggestions, And I hope that touches what you needed, Jay.
Yeah, that's perfect. And then if you want to reach out to Rick, you can either do it through chat here and we'll forward it. Rick, I don't want to get you into trouble, but if you'd like to share your email, then please do that in the chat.
Jamie, Hans Corell here. I just heard diverse group, and I see that we are 89 participants here. How many are Americans, and how many come from other parts of the world? It would be very interesting to know. And it is important also, as I said, that we have an authoritative text of the Declaration, because if we want to contribute translations, it's important that we know that we are translating the exact words of the Declaration. Thank you.
Yes, so we have authoritative text. We'll send it around, and we have 8 translations already. We'd love to get Swedish. There's only going to be one error in the translations, and that's because Hans sent me an email like 3 weeks ago, and I didn't read it carefully enough. And so there was one little, we said UN Charter instead of the Charter of the United Nations. So we're changing it on the English, and we'll change it later on the other. But we will send that, and thank you for that. And again, I say it on every call, both collectively for in our plenary group and on the working group meetings. But I 100%, I think everybody in this group agrees that we need to be more diverse, that we are highly American. And the reason is that just the origin of this group, a certain percentage, it's 1 or 2 degrees of people I know, and people who know people I know. And that's why we need to grow beyond that, and we are growing beyond that. But we really want everyone to own this diversity issue. So if there's a diversity that you want and don't see, it's really up to everybody to recruit it. And so you can recruit people, again, in the next 24 hours if you want them to be original signatories. And I'm certainly doing that with friends in Africa and elsewhere. I think that's really important. We can do it in the outreach. Once we have the pledge and we're getting people to sign, we can do it with recommending names for Rick and for Divya and for those. So I 100% agree. And I think we should just all take responsibility for that. I'm gonna switch around the order of things for a reason that'll become clear. But Betsy, if you would just give your very quick remarks on the funding structure.
Sure. Hi, everybody. You might remember me mentioning the last time that we've set an initial goal of $25,000 to help underwrite basic infrastructure costs, and that the Social Good Fund is our fiscal sponsor so that we can receive donations per the website and also grants. Through the One Shared World website, we'll be able to have particularly individual donations come through, and we're developing language on the donate section of the website in time for the launch. I actually just looked at the website, the donate button. We can donate now, I guess, which is great for those of us who are interested to do so and able to do so. But we will put some framing language on that page. We're developing our group. The funding group met at the end of last week. We're developing funding strategies for approaching foundations and individuals and putting together budgets to accompany proposals that we submit. And the strategies will focus on these particular themes and principles that we've been discussing. And then I just want to encourage, as Jamie has just mentioned with the recruiting of diversity for this effort, all of you to identify, if you can identify those that we should be contacting, please email me. I'll put my email into the chat, individuals or organizations that you think the funding group should be considering to approach for, for engagement and support. So that's sort of the quick update from me, from the funding group.
Awesome, thank you so much. Yeah, and I think the website is going to be live, so it's actually functional. It'll go dark in 49 minutes. So first, I also want to say when I talked about the public health group, I didn't see that Donna Hackley, who's joined us, is also she's also spearheading getting that group rolling. So thank you to you, Donna. And now what I'd like to do, and again, I know this has been so much information, and just there's so many moving parts. that I wanted to just have everyone know where things are. But I'd like to open it up now for the next maybe 15 minutes for people's just thoughts, reflections. And again, I apologize because you had so many people have just been in listening modes, but I ask if you could just make your comments as concise as possible, but meaning essentialize them. And what I'll have you do is, if you could do the same as last time, if you would like to speak, just say so in the chat, and then Vanessa will call on you. Is that good for you, Vanessa?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, yeah, so just if you'd like to say something, please, and really about anything, because we really need this feedback, please just say so in chat.
Go ahead, Paul Barkman.
Cancel.
I just wanted to lend my support as an individual reading the declaration itself. Normally I don't sign things, and normally I don't participate in these types of activities, but I have to say the declaration is balanced, it is visionary, and it is hopeful. And I certainly would like to personally thank Hans Corell for this. Hans, I've been an admirer of yours for many years. From the Arctic, and see your activities and leadership in this is important in terms of crafting a declaration that will stand the test of time. So I just wanted to as one person in the world, to acknowledge you've created something that is hopeful, which is, I think, the most basic responsibility of every generation.
Thanks. Alan Berman, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to reiterate my support for the declaration as written. I'm wondering about the organizations that are listed in the community. So I suspect I may be fairly unique. I'm actually a person who's worked on nuclear weapons, non-proliferation, all that sort of stuff. I don't really see a balance in views in the organizations there. I also don't see the Organization for the Prohibition of OPCW. I won't be able to get it right. Which one of my friends was actually the head of that for a number of years. And my concern is that if this looks like it is a particular political agenda, it's not going to meet your desire for diversity, and you're going to immediately start driving in people into their tribes and shut off dialogue. And so that's just my thought on what I would say the curation of the organizations you want to list as people you're on board with.
So let me just jump in and respond to that. We need your help on this. I mean, we had that list. You would think that we had a committee of 50 people who suffered and made decisions about who's in and who's not. We had a really amazing group of our brilliant young people, Marie and Omar, who are both on this call. So we really invite and need everyone to kind of go through that. And if there's an organization that you think is missing, Omar, if you would put your email on this in the chat, please send a message to Omar, and we'll certainly add anything that you feel needs to be added. It wasn't there. You're assuming a much deeper process than we had. We just wanted to make sure when we were going out of the gate that we were at least making a head nod to recognize there are other organizations, and there are great organizations working in every area that we discuss. But please tell us.
Yeah, my only point is that we all have our biases, and we have to be careful that we are always questioning each other's biases. That's I think, really the fundamental.
I know, but you're assuming that this list comes from a bias. It doesn't. So we need your help. We need to share all of our biases and bring them all together.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Vanessa.
Ken, go ahead.
I'd like to say that one of my favorite stories is the Stone Soup Fable, which has got lots of different versions around the world. But I've been getting such an incredible experience out of seeing everybody bring what they bring to this stew and turning it into something. And I mostly just want to say, for all of you guys been working on these working groups night and day over these last few weeks, I am enormously grateful. And to you, Jamie, thank you. I think in the midst of all this, whatever comes of it in a couple of days, I'm grateful for this opportunity to be a part of this.
Thanks. Vishaka, go ahead. You're on mute.
There you go. Congratulations to all, and especially all of my colleagues on the framing team. We had a good way of getting things going, and we will be back to you for the next step. So your work is not done yet. So just want to remind you. But more importantly, I think that with this organizational side of things, I think we might want to have a short phrase that actually recognizes that this work, we're not the first people to do it. That we actually have some sense of being humble, that there's lots of people doing lots of good work, and we are trying to actually amplify, support, go beyond, and at the same time, hopefully unique. So something of a kind of a statement in that networks page would be helpful, I think, so that people realize that we're not telling you that we're the only ones and we are the special ones. We are probably unique, but maybe not special. So something of that sort, I think, would be useful. And the second thing that Alan said, I think really is important. All of us need to check the languages because we want everybody to be part of this. And whenever something sounds a little bit like we're putting particular value judgment and privileging it, let's just watch it, because the goal is that interdependence is our value, not particular systems, not particular way, so that we keep coming back to the interdependence idea, one shared world idea, how what we do is connected to somewhere else. So I think all of us have that obligation to watch it and see how we do that. And I think with that, I just want to say also the team that did the website, amazing. It's really, really, really great. And the young folks who are on this call, I know many of you have reached out, you want to be part of it. We need you. So you have a big job for us. And that is to get the word out in your networks, because without that, all of us 30 years from now, most of us, many of us rather, won't be around probably, but you all will be. So we need you in a big way.
Yep, and thank you, Vishaka. I endorse everything that you just said. We do have some language trying to say what you just articulated at the top of that page of the website, but look at it and exactly, it's like maybe it's wrong, maybe it could be better, and we need that kind of input. And that's why we're moving fast, but we want to have just this little bit of time to. All right, Vanessa.
Hans, please go ahead.
Are you referring to me?
Yes, say
Thank you. Well, I think this is very important. And Jamie, thank you very much for the work you're doing. But I think it's very important that this becomes an international effort. And that's why we need to bring people on board from many countries. And this means that you have to think when you take the floor in meetings like this, that you speak clearly and articulate so that people can hear what you say around the world. Of course, I spent 10 years in New York when I was at the Legal Council of the United Nations. I'm used to listening to languages from all around the world, but it's important to bring people on board, and also in particular that Vishaka said, young people. And also when I think of Kofi Annan, who tragically passed away in 2018, he was very much aware of one element that many lawyers, I'm the chief lawyer of the UN for many years, don't know, that the rule of law is the precondition for peace and security in the world. And that is why we have to work for this in the future. And I think that this effort might develop into a very important element. And for me, one of the most important elements in the declaration is that we are not trying to substitute, but support the existing organs that we have, because I see no alternative today to the sovereign nation state. That's the system we have in the world. But these states have to act in accordance with the rule of law. And this is why I'm so extremely critical of the Security Council, because they are failing their duties when they really should be standing up for the ideals of the UN. And if you're interested, just Google my name, Hans Corell, and you will find my website where you have articles on the Security Council and so forth. But Jamie, I'm so glad that you are doing this effort, and I hope that people will join the effort and that we will sort of have a movement around the world that will support the existing organs, and as you say in the declaration, that we demand from those who represent them, those states and international organizations, that they perform their duties. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hans. And unfortunately, I know there are other people who wanted to say something. We're going to have to move on because of time. So, but please, if you have a comment, put it in the chat and we'll get to it. But I just wanted to, I would never correct my dear friend Hans, but I have to correct one thing, because you talked about my movement and it's our movement. We're a community of co-creators and we're all doing this together. I was happy to be the catalyst and to play what role I'm able to play, and I'm honored to do it. But this is a we, and the we is going to get bigger. And I really want everybody to feel that empowerment. As Ken said, we want everybody to not be able to sleep Tuesday night because you feel that the success of this whole thing is on you. That if you spoke up and said we need more diversity in this group, that you can't sleep because you're thinking, well, how can I play my role in getting that diversity? And that's the way that we succeed, is that we're all empowered together. But you also mentioned the critical role of young people, and it's incredible. So we have an amazing group of our young people. We call them coordinators. We have a new lexicon, and Paula in a moment will talk about that. So I'd like to call on Omar and Grace to talk about the coordinators program for a couple of minutes.
Hi, everyone. So I'll be, me and Grace are going to be speaking on behalf of the coordinators. A lot of what we've been working on over the course of the past couple of days is to try and provide a little bit of structure to the various working groups. So I'm just going to walk you through some of the titles and roles that we've been talking about in order to help you better direct your own thoughts, because as Jamie's mentioned and as everybody else has been talking about, this is a very fast growing coalition. We have a lot of people being onboarded. We have a lot of ideas being floated around. So we want to make sure that we have an efficient system to capture all of that. The roles and titles as they are now are going to be volunteers, working group leaders, and coordinators. So volunteers, that's the bulk of the initiative, and that's the majority of the people that are listening in on this call. That's everybody from different walks of life. We have a lot of amazing expertise in this group, and these are essential contributors. The working group leaders are going to be a subset within the volunteers who are going to be taking command of the various working groups, which have been reshuffled a little bit in light of the amazing progress I think we made. Some of the working groups that initially had a very prominent role have been joining other ones. And then lastly, we have the coordinators, and these are people in the facilitator role. So we're going to have about 2 coordinators to each group. And I'm sure as I've been going over these roles, you've recognized which of them you fall into. If you don't, I'm sure Jamie has a few ideas for what you could be doing with your time. In terms of the flow of information, we want everybody to be very comfortable with the Google Suite. And like I said, there's various folders, and decentralization and empowerment is a very important message that everybody's driving forward. And that applies to how we organize our ideas as well. So as I mentioned, the coordinators are meant to be a catch-all. By all means, identify and communicate with the coordinators of your respective working groups. And within that, also feel free to take ownership of the documents and the folders that are being created in the Google Suite. If you see an idea that you've discussed that wasn't for whatever reason contributed or formalized or documented, jump onto those Google Sheets and contribute as you see fit. Beyond that, I'd just like to stress once again that you identify the coordinators within your working groups, and that flow of information from general volunteers to working group leaders to coordinators is very well established. And then I'm going to hand it over to Grace, who's going to talk a little bit about the onboarding process that we've been working on.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be on this call with you. I just kind of wanted to first touch on the role of the coordinators and how they can be a resource to you. The coordinators, like Omar said, are the group of young people who were formerly known as interns. who are working together to sort of be the organizational force behind this movement. They'll handle everything from the nuts and bolts of setting up Zoom calls to helping each working group schedule meetings, and can also help onboard new volunteers as we grow in the coming days and weeks and months ahead. They also will have a huge role in working on their own internal projects. They'll be heavily involved with the social media, as mentioned before, and also looking how to reach out to our own individual networks. A lot of us are still in college, so have access to a ton of professors and students our age as well. Lastly, too, I would also like to extend an invitation to you all to invite other young people who you know and are in your lives to join our group. We have designated one of our coordinators, Shagun, as the sole person to help onboard new coordinators, and I know she'll do a wonderful job, but we would love to get more hands on deck. It's gonna grow quickly and we need all the help we can get. So I'm really excited to be part of this group, and it's great to be with all of you on this call. It's a really inspiring cause, and happy launch week, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Omar and Grace. And if anybody wants to be inspired that in spite of all this madness, this crazy species of ours still has hope, it's looking at these guys just roll up their sleeves and jump in. It's really incredible. And we're structuring this like a real program. And so we're going to have, in addition to all the kinds of things that these guys have mentioned, we're going to have an education program for the young coordinators themselves. And so we've told them to look at the list of who they would like, and once a week to have somebody, some wise person, to go and maybe say a few words to that group and have a conversation. So we really want this to grow, and we have unlimited capacity to absorb people because the coordinators, I've heard, they're organizing themselves and that's the reason why we abolished the word intern. Intern suggests a hierarchy. We are a community of all different people of all backgrounds, across generations and all ages. So thank you so much to you. And also thank you for also taking some of the burden of decentralizing, because Vanessa is the unsung hero of this whole thing. I don't think any of this would exist but for Vanessa volunteering on the first day. So please join me in an enormous debt of gratitude to Vanessa. And I guess,
and I'm all shades of red now. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, everyone. All of you that have reached out individually to support me and thank me. So I thank all of you 10 times more for the great opportunity.
Yeah, so thank you, Vanessa. And you got a woohoo from, I'm seeing it now, from Jamie Douglas. So finally, as we grow, and we're growing so fast, we are going from, like in the beginning, we were this kind of ragtag group of guerrillas where somebody yelled, hey, grab a gun, the bad guys are coming. And now we're organizing ourselves as we wage this battle for a better world. And so we need to be more organized. I mean, we're becoming more organized, but it's like any startup. We have to build structures that will allow for our growth in a sustainable way. And so Paula, I'm just so thrilled to have Paula as part of this team, because the wisdom and experience that she brings from marching with Martin Luther King and working with Cesar Chavez at the United Farm Workers, it's just incredible. So Paula, I'd love to ask you to say some words about social organization. And then we've asked you to say some special words to close out our meeting, and then we'll have everyone unmute themselves and we'll do our usual international mayhem. So Paula, over to you. Or not. Paula, are you there? Hold on 1 second. Let me just check, because
she's muted.
Vanessa, do you see Paula on here?
Paula Raymond is on the screen.
She's muted.
Oh, Paula, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to scroll through, but not fast enough. Thank you, everyone.
Hold on. Paula. Hold on. Is she still muted?
She's muted and she's looking away from the screen.
Oh, that's because she can't hear us. And do I need to unmute Paula?
I'll text her and see if I can catch her attention.
All right. Hold on 1 second. While we're waiting, Deborah DeVegin has volunteered.
Oh, there she is.
To sing us a beautiful song.
I got it, Jamie.
Okay, all right, good.
Sorry, guys. First of all, I just want to thank everybody here. You know, the famous thing, it takes a village. Well, this takes a lot of villages. And I want to thank Jamie, who I didn't know 6 weeks ago, Vanessa, who I can't wait to climb the mountain with, Vanessa. We're going to do that. Miguel and the people, Ken, Marie, just everybody that's been working, Mary, on the social architecture group. It's really quite amazing to try to build an organizational foundation for something that really is giving birth, and I think of it, and you've heard the metaphor already from Jamie, not just an organization. We're building a transformative movement for transformative change of how human beings can interact with each other across this globe. So that's really what we're about. And everybody on this beautiful picture today is part of giving birth to this together. So we've got a lot of mamas and papas and a lot of people in the birth room. And I do think we're at about somewhere between 7 and 8 centimeters. And we're hoping the baby is going to be beautiful, which I'm sure he or she will be. But it's taken quite an effort to get us to this point in the pregnancy. I want to say that we, as the social architecture group, has come up with a way of organizing ourselves internally in terms of our infrastructure that I'll just say very briefly, and we can share more with you in terms of the social architecture of this as we go along, because it's really following the nonviolent movement idea that the means justifies the ends. And if you don't set this up right, the building will collapse, the baby won't be born, and grow and thrive. So we've used a social architecture form that is called Inclusive Engagement Organization. And the bottom line on this, for all of you that are students of organization, is that rather than a hierarchical model, right, that power only goes power from the top down, this is really trying to embrace a way for power to go from bottom up and top down, and communication, again, from ways of thinking that permeate the entire organization, and ways to invite people to come in. One thing that I think we're challenged by right now, and welcome your help on, is we all don't speak exactly the same language. We all have different terms for different things. And it's not just so simple translating from us to Swahili, to Arabic, to French, etc. We're talking also from our own personal narratives. The personal is the political for each one of us. So how to best communicate is something we're striving for in our social architecture. I want to say we did come up with at least a working title for Jamie, which is founder and chair for right now. And we are working on titles. I think that Omar made a few title kind of out there, and this still is a work in progress. So I want to thank all the members of the social architecture group. We've been working hard and long, and we'll meet again after the launch on Friday probably. And we welcome ideas from all of you about how to best do this. I'm going to end now with a poem that I want to share with all of you. I think that perhaps can help us think about that this moment in history is so full of the opportunity to give birth to something new. This is a poem that is taken from wonderful Seamus Heaney, who I hope many of you know, the Nobel Prize-winning poet from Northern Ireland, who wrote this poem reflecting on the world wars that came before during his lifetime. And it's the poem, The Cure at Troy. And I'm just going to read a short segment of it. And this is because all of you deserve a blessing for just being part of this ahead of time, and also to go back to our focus on hope. So here we go. Human beings suffer. They get hurt, and they get hurt hard. No poem or play or song can fully right a wrong that has been inflicted and has endured. History says, don't hope on this side of the grave. But then, once in a lifetime, the longed for tidal wave of justice can rise up, and hope and history rhyme. So hope for a great sea change on the far side of revenge. Believe that the farthest shore is reachable from here. Believe in miracles and cures and the healing well. Amen to all of you. We will do it. Si se puede. Yes, we can. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Paula. It's just so beautiful. And what I will say is it's just such an incredible honor for me to be part of this journey alongside all of you. So it's incredible how far we've come. And as Paula and everybody has said, we're on our way to the hospital. The ambulance is racing away, and we launch out, we give birth to this beginning, and then it'll all be part of shaping where this goes. So thank you so much. One small, just tiny bit of housekeeping. I said this on the last call, what we like to do is to post this video on our website so that people who want to know who we are and how we got here can know that. But if you spoke and you wanted to be edited out of that video, or just for any reason, whatever, just send a note to Vanessa, and we'll just to protect your privacy. So finally, as has become our tradition, I invite, this is the mayhem part of ending this meeting, I invite everybody to please unmute yourself. All right, unmute yourself, everybody. All right, and now in whatever language your heart speaks, it could be a foreign language, a song, a yodel. Actually, my father's on the line. My dad can yodel because he grew up in Switzerland. Let the wild rumpus begin. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nui loa.
Nations world.
Compartido.
Hey, everybody. Nui.
Entering a renaissance.
It's midnight here, so godnatt och sov gott.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
All right, buonanotte.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Be healthy.
Deborah, you can still do your song now.
The dancing girls are going to come out, right?
No, that's sexist. Dancing boys.
Everybody. The boys and the boys will invite the girls, and everybody will come and rejoice together.
So everyone can just stay. We'll just here with it. Hi, Dad.
Jamie,
Everyone say hi to my
next
dad.
time,
Jamie.
Jamie, next time we should do the Trisha Brown thing. One person starts a gesture, the next one has to repeat it and add another. And then.
How do you know the order?
So, well.
Rachel's got it.
Lots of people, but it would be quite wonderful.
Will you, next time, at the end, will you lead us in that, Vishaka?
Absolutely, but that means you have to pay attention to what the other person is doing.
And I think we're gonna have to have enough time to do it, but I say let's go for it. We're a community of co-creators, and let's create and see what
Or
happens.
at least allow for 5 minutes. Whoever can do it, do it.
I love it.
Okay.
Do our screens all line up the same though, Vishaka? I don't know.
No, they're different on everybody's screen. But at the end, this is the moment of chaos. So whatever chaos happens.
Start, and then whoever can do it, do it.
Yep.
All right.
Amy, I just want to take an extra second to say thank you. And Josh wasn't on today with all the coordinators, but we're working on exploding that group. So.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I'd say it's the ultimate vote of confidence that so many people are sending their children and grandchildren to be part of this. So I hope we are worthy.
Or students.
Yeah.
Right. Hi, Tia.
Oh, good. Yeah, so Tia just became the coordinator for Rick Barton and that whole initiative, which is, I mean, I think some of these young people are going to have incredible experiences. So if you have people and their internships got canceled, if their jobs have vanished, if they're home from school, send them our way, and Shagan is coordinating the onboarding. We'll take them all.
Right. Somebody had just mentioned Josh. Was it Oleana? I missed.
So Josh is the daughter of Leslie, the son of Leslie.
Son.
Oh, okay. So I had the pleasure of getting to know him over the weekend. So thank you for that. Oh, great, Deborah. I'm so glad.
Since
okay.
Since there are quotes of poetry and references to music, may I suggest you access my website, just Google Hans Corell, and listen to my farewell gift to Kofi Annan. I wrote it for the Great Highland Pipe. Secretary General Kofi Annan's prayer for peace. And this is what he said to me when we negotiated the agreement with Saddam Hussein on access to the presidential palaces for the inspectors, the weapons inspectors. And I said, well, have we done anything? Can we do anything more? And he softly said, Hans, you know, it often helps to pray. And that's what led me to compose this melody for the hymn for the Great Highland Pipe, Secretary General Kofi Annan's prayer for peace. Thank you.
So Hans, we're not letting you off that easy. Now that you've identified yourself with musical talent, would you sing us a song before you go to bed tonight?
No, I won't do that. But listen to my bagpipe tune.
Well, that's great. Well, we can just hang around. I love seeing everybody.
I think we could add bagpipe to gamelan. I think there's
Oh my God. Rachel,
that's a great idea.
Night.
Good night. I gotta
go.
Good night.
You're insulting anybody if you leave.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
night. Good day, everyone. I will sign off for now.
Bye, everybody.
Buenas noches.
Bye.
Buenas noches.
All right. Muchas gracias.
Buenas noches.
Buenos días. Guten Nacht.
Gute Nacht.
Buenas noches. Hi, Dad.
Congratulations to your parents, Jamie. They produced an excellent son.
Well, yes, they have, in the name of inclusion, I'm one of 4.
Thank you.
Plural then.
Hi, Rita.
Hi, Kurt. Where's Marilyn?
She's working.
Oh my gosh.
No, Mom was, she had her own phone. It was pointing at the ceiling.
Oh, this has been glorious.
Yeah.
So proud of you. I want to make sure, Jamie and everybody, that we have, when you send us exactly what you want us to forward to our friends.
Yes, so that will happen.
Mouse it up, yeah.
No, that's gonna happen tomorrow at 6
Good.
when it's live, and it'll say, for individuals, please forward, and all you have to do is forward it and just put a little note saying, I've signed this pledge and I hope you will too. Whatever you want to say, but it'll just forward it and populate it with your people, and then it'll be live. But we're going to send it tomorrow at 6 here, which is 3 p.m. your time. And so just because otherwise, if we send it, doesn't have a live link, people may get confused.
I'm also concerned when I send out mass emails, so many of them end up in junk.
Yeah.
Or is there any, have you looked into what we can do to make sure that things...
The answer is no, but when they come from mass mailers, they're more likely to be identified as junk. So I think with you sending them, it decreases the likelihood. But there's not any strategy. Everyone on earth is trying to figure this out, and there's not a super strategy, because we're also benefiting from Google and others filtering the stuff that we get. So we'll just do the best we can do.
And I hope you're going to figure out how many to send at a time.
Well, our numbers are small because there's only like 340 people on our group.
Oh, yeah.
And then it'll go to you, and we're hoping that everybody will send to however many are on yours. I'll send it out on my personal list, which is 8,000. But then, like, I'm in touch with the office of the Dalai Lama and talking about whether he'll tweet it out. Our declaration's gone to the Pope. I don't think the Pope's going to tweet it out, but I just think that hopefully that our message will grow and it'll have a life of its own. We need to create enough of a spark so that people can see the light. And that's why my thought is we just try everything on the first day and then see what momentum we can get. And that's why Jamie Douglas is such a hero, because when you have a site on GoDaddy, it's not, you're not accounting for what if 10 million people show up on the first day. I don't know whether they will, but if they do, we want a site that works.
So I also want to ask, do you want us to go out on our social media immediately?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so we want to everybody spread, and for you, Rita, like I'd love for you to do a drawing or a series of drawings around this theme and post it on social media. Just take a picture of it, or have Doriana take a video of you creating and post it on social media. We really want to have people's creativity.
You know, Suzy and I talked about a collaboration. Yeah. I would love to have a Zoom or whatever, and with her playing her drums and my painting at the same time. This is what I like to do.
If you guys can, we would love it. And you could either to do that as something that goes up on Instagram, or, which I would also love, to do it at the end of one of these calls as a creative thing. Like just take your into your studio, and we'll have Suzy play just like you did with David Parsons, and you create, and we'll love it.
I don't know if Suzy's still on with us.
She's not.
Okay. Yes, I'm very happy to do that.
Yeah. Oh, we would love it. You're hired.
I haven't been speaking up and volunteering because I didn't want this to be self-serving, but I will give it anything and everything.
That's great. No, this whole thing of self-serving. I was on having a conversation with somebody today, and I said, you know, it's like I'm uncomfortable tooting my own horn, but if I don't toot my own horn with my own publicist, where am I going to toot it? And so
if you don't, we will.
This mission, your art has a purpose of driving change in the world, and so we need to get it out into the world.
People have said that my work brings them joy and happiness, so
it does.
It's my pleasure and honor to share it.
Well, that's wonderful.
Call upon me.
No, you have lived an entire life. And Katya, how are you? I just see I'm interacting with you through your wonderful facial expressions, which just give me joy.
I'm fine, thanks. Almost midnight over here, but I'm full of energy
Oh, good.
Thanks to all this. It's very exciting. And just while we speak, I just, coming up with ideas and, there is this huge media center I didn't even think about. They digitalize the MoMA, all the artwork of MoMA. And they are based in literally around the corner from where I live. So, it's just great because it brings me ideas to whom to reach out.
And also, you should just feel total ownership of the entire German-speaking world. You and my dad. My dad, he's shy about, my dad is a native, who's down below you on the screen, is a native German speaker. But I don't think he's as plugged in, but feel free. I think you should, Katja, be one of these spokespeople. And just like the entire German language world, I mean, we'd love for you to just own it. And Paul, we talked about academia and just kind of taking it and running. I mean, on the call today, we had Shaukat Aziz, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, and I'm in touch with Gordon Brown, and I'm wanting them to say, can they get how many former presidents and prime ministers to sign the declaration? Just like every category can be organized.
You know, it's interesting, you mentioned in the call the G7. And part of operating on a planetary scale from local to global is recognizing that subnational is of increasing relevance in the world we live in. And one observation is that you potentially could communicate with the C40. So the C40 or Cities 40 that met in Copenhagen recently, for example, at the level of cities to think about climate. And so I wouldn't only focus at the high level people that are operating currently in the world at the national scale or at the international scale. I think the relevance and implications of the declaration you helped to craft and inspired us to help contribute to is from subnational to national to international. And I would imagine that the renaissance that is being awakened in many different directions and will work effectively across this jurisdictional spectrum from subnational to national to international.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I was already reaching out. A good friend of mine is Eric Garcetti, the mayor of LA. But I didn't think about using the C40 angle. I think it's a great idea. So I'm going to do that. That's fantastic. And also because Benjamin Barber, I mean, his work is, I mean, we're inheritors of his work. And I know he was focusing on that a lot. Well, Herzl, Dad, before we head off, do you have anything to say? Dad? I see you smiling there. Oh, I think he's frozen. I thought he...
I was smiling.
Okay, no, your screen got frozen.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, so Dad, you know Rita, and then my good friend Katja. So we met when I was in Frankfurt, and then Paul.
Oh, I remember you took the trip with her.
No, different that, but we met when I was at Frankfurt.
In Switzerland, actually, we were in Switzerland, and you were trying to call your dad because.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Exactly. We were there and then Switzerland. You're so right. 100%. My bad. And then Paul reached out to me through my website. He's a professor of international relations at Tufts, and then he just started speaking. And after like 2 minutes, I said, "You can keep going, telling me what you think, but after hearing you speak for 2 minutes, I just guarantee." I 100% agree with everything you're going to say because everything you say makes a lot of sense to me, and that's.
Well, you've created a room full of kindred spirits, which is outstanding.
So we're getting there, and so many people I didn't know a month ago. I mean, like Paula, I literally didn't know. There's a indirect connection because my parents in Kansas City. They're good friends, Ann and Kenny Baum. They have their relative who's Mary Gendler, Mary and Everett. Everett's kind of a famous liberal rabbi. And then Mary recruited Paula. So it's like, but I think soon we're going to get beyond the dominoes stuff, and it'll just be a bunch of people who maybe don't even know we exist. They'll just find a declaration and hopefully say, well, that language speaks to me, and take it and run. And I think that's what we're hoping, is to create something that's thematically consistent enough to be meaningful, but decentralized enough that people can just take it and run and feel empowered.
Well, the contrast with the Declaration of Independence is profound. And I think that's where the resonance will come.
And that was why, so when I first did that, the first declaration, I had some language that I just stole from Thomas Jefferson. Actually, Rita and I were in touch, and I wanted to keep just a little bit of the Thomas Jefferson to make that reference. And so everyone's saying, like, what the hell is sacred honor? So he's like, no, Thomas Jefferson said it. It's okay.
Yeah, code word for.
Exactly.
It was a tough part to translate, by the way.
I know. Well, the only thing is, because the U.S. Declaration of Independence has been translated into every language, what I tell everyone is just see what somebody else said there. All right, guys, I have to go because I have this call with the Dean of the Harvard Public Health School in 2 minutes.
Well done, Jamie. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you, Katja. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Kurtzel. Claude, I see you're there, but I haven't heard you. And so my guess is that you're just there in an abstract way, a spiritual way.
Probably so thrilled he doesn't know what to say.
Yep, exactly. Thank you for that, Rita. That's a very positive way.
Get all over his face.
Yep. All right, guys, I'm going to end the meeting. Love to everybody. Bye.
Proud of you, Jamie. You're amazing.
You're amazing. All right.
Bye.